Start our recording or resume recording.
There you go, that's why it's super. That's why we instilled them here.
You draw a smiley face like on a piece of paper and stick it on. Like, hi. Unmute myself. There we go.
Leave me here by myself, thanks, David.
My granddaughter comes up from behind me every once in a while and says, you know that the neighbor. Kid.
Alright, I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes for Amanda, just because she did not say she wouldn't be here, so, the way Beverly's email went was to let me know if you're not going to be here. Boy, my email went out, was please let me know you're going to be here, so.
Sorry.
No,
I did not reply to anyone.
no, I mean, it's usually Beverly, so she sends out the minutes. Will you copy everything for Beverly? Yes. So, do you know maybe?
I know of her.
Okay. So I'm gonna show you introductions.
Karen.
I mean, bring it. So.
Dawn coming?
Dawn's not, it's all the week.
Yep. And I got minutes tonight. I don't know if you were doing that, but I'm on it. I got you.
Awesome.
Okay.
That's not, all right.
That's me. You could be around this topical, so. Here's something changing.
Yeah, no, we do.
All right, I'm gonna call the meeting 5:35. So before we start, I would like to have them introduce themselves and welcome our newest member, Nick Castellaro, representing the Hopkinton Village Precinct.
Yeah, I to be honest, I here for the bank.
And because we're recording, you might be recording one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Catherine Mitchell, I'm here as the person who has been sort of designated to represent natural resources. I am on the Conservation Commission, but I'm not here as a representative of the public. It's that perspective.
Great.
Alyssa McCann, I'm here from Select Board.
I'm Dave Feller. I'm not here for anyone. Other than yourself. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
And I hope you know me. Nick and I are neighbors and have been for 11 years, so.
Yeah, I live across the street, short commute, so I'm the current chair of the village precinct board of commissioners for the Hopkinton Village Precinct. Thank you.
So and just for the record, this is not an appointed seat. It is an invitation for the Hopkinton Village Precinct to participate in conversations and have a dialogue with us. So they serve at their pleasure and all right then. Did everyone get a copy of the minutes?
Well done.
I
Thanks.
have an amendment from Mr. Pellet. minutes? No. Okay, then I'll make the amendment. Just to include that last month we did discuss the letter from, your, your mother.
Your,
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot that amendment. Okay.
And
Deer Path and the Meadows.
the Meadows, thank you, yes,
I think they're-
from the Meadows. And I'd also like to add that we discussed the appointment. Or not the appointment, let's rephrase that. The
Inclusion.
ability to add a representative from Hopkins Village Precinct.
I will add those to the administrative section at the top.
Perfect. All right. Does anyone have any other comments, changes? And if not, could I get a motion to approve as amended?
That's something, it says new seat here, it's like board approved the new seats about the precinct.
Yes.
So you were gonna add it, so I was like.
I think that was further down under,
Yes, under housing committee appointments. This in the minutes. It's on page.
yes, top of page 2, the news.
Are you questioning the nature?
No, I thought you were adding something about putting somebody on, but I thought it was already on the minutes, so maybe. Does, you know what I'm saying?
True.
Okay.
Do you want me to move it to the top or do you want to leave it here? Okay.
So we can strike that.
So the only thing is adding that we discussed the letters from Deer Path and from the Meadows regarding the change in ownership and impact on housing value.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So can I get a
Second.
motion to approve this?
motion made,
The second.
Second.
That's, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I guess I'm saying that I wasn't here.
Okay,
you're the same.
Same. Yeah, over the years.
all right, then. Okay, then. Okay, so everyone has their copy of the red line that represents what we discussed at last month's meeting. Yes. Okay. Is everyone able to review that?
Yes. I can't say yes to everyone, but yes.
Dean, did you have an opportunity? Okay, Melissa, Dave,
Mhm.
were there any changes to this list? As we have it in the red line version?
All my notes,
Okay.
good job.
Easy to do a red line and everyone is contributing to it. So
I think something. There's one of ones. There's the townhouse.
Which one is that?
okay,
Give me that.
3.6, 8.6.
And it was, next to the last page, the district by district impact summary.
Yes.
We do have, under effects of proposal, R3 and R4 say no multifamily, and under likely outcome, under R1, it says small multifamily. Should we be changing those to townhouse? Because we had got rid of it for multifamily earlier. So as not to confuse it with apartments, which is what are usually called.
I see what you mean. Okay, so under effective proposal.
I'm so sorry. Which one are we in?
It's A6. Last
A6.
two.
the townhouse one.
Just so I can note it for the minutes, thank you. Last one. And so where it says no multifamily, that would say no townhouse instead. Where it says no multifamily, that would say no townhouse instead, or,
Well, yeah, because last time, my recollection.
We made all the changes.
oh yeah, I fully support it, just noting it for the minutes correctly,
Yeah.
make sure I got you.
We were
Okay.
changing everything to townhouse, but I don't think it carried through to this.
It did.
District by
And
district.
then under the R1, it also says likely outcome, small multifamily, that one should change too. And then under R3, where you were adding rural character preserve, it's just a typo with the things.
Thank you. Is there anything else on A26? Nick, I know you've been dropped right into the middle of the process, and I apologize. I should have done a better job of explaining what we're doing now. So this year here, we're looking at 2027 warrant article submissions. So
Recommendations, I guess.
pardon?
Recommendations.
Recommendations. Well, from the housing committee to the planning board for their review.
Yeah.
And so the next one that everyone decided upon is to take a look at neighborhood uses.
Okay.
So what can be done in which districts, you can have this if you want this. It's the latest district we have that we have, it does not reflect the new NR district. Which is located near Park and. Keep forgetting the Kingsford.
Yeah, it's part of, Kearsarge, Spring Street, Park Ave, and then the Amesbury Park. Housing development.
So as approved previously. And so there are some references to that within short on this map. But everyone was, we were all sitting there trying to figure out where these different districts were. During our conversations, so I just printed out the larger size map. So then, within the table of uses, we went through. 3.6. 8.6. 8.9 and 8.10. And so those are what we are discussing right now. And so the red line is basically a compilation of the pros and cons to the recommendations in anticipation of what we see as conversation starters around town prior to those recommendations if they are. Except we have planning board. Planning board asked if we could provide a narrative to go along with our recommendations. And also asked for the zoning council duty. So those were assigned to different committee members. Ian is still in the board.
Yes.
Bill
I'm
is
still in mine,
the
yeah.
board. So that's where we're at right now. And I know that's going to be a whole lot more. I was hoping Amanda would be here so that she can tell us what she found most helpful as a new member. Actually receiving information. I could just file them with you. But I'd rather you have what is probably most meaningful to catch you up. So,
I did connect with somebody that I know on, I think they're on the planning board. And I asked Amanda if I got circulate those, I wasn't sure if that was going to be or not. I said, there was a flyer for their zoning changes that were close to kind of what we were doing. I know him because I work with him, he's only on Brentwood anymore, and I thought that might be useful. But I can send you a copy of that if you. I'll email it.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. You could, send it to the whole committee, but just one copy. So. Okay, so, are there any other discussions surrounding 3.68.6? And if not, I will take that final suggestion. And format that as our final document, the pros and cons on this particular use.
Just a quick question. Right now, are you just looking for sort of technical changes to this, not debating the content or anything about that, but just whether there are typos or?
Yes. Because I think we went through our, excuse me, detailed discussions, prior to the red lines. So, all right then, so we had some questions last month, and I said I would reach out to Karen Robertson about. I want to make sure that we don't overlook any of those. I just want to refer back to my 14 copies. So 3.68.9. Item number 6 aligns with the zoning hierarchy. We had some questions about this because initially these were the conversions in the commercial B1 district. And House Bill 631 was signed into law and will be going into effect July 1st of this year. And it does, it does allow for that multifamily development of new and construction, as long as they meet certain requirements that we set for which.
That's essentially what the Brentwood document did. They allow them. For what housing and multifamily in the business district. I think in anticipation of what's happening.
So you have to meet, as long as. As soon as. No, sorry, this printed by the cut off. I want to make sure that we get the. Verbiage here. Okay, single family homes could be converted to a multi-family provided adequate infrastructure exists in the B1 district. Karen's answer was it does not significantly impact the B1 district in Hopkinton, as the town already permits multi-family development, both new construction and conversions by right, up to 12 or 24 units, depending on the applicable provisions. So there is
Does that mean that our district by district is incorrect?
that what?
District by district impact is incorrect?
Yes,
So did we start here on number 6?
the
That's
starting
where you were addressing, I'm sorry.
number 6, yes.
Oh, by right, sorry, I was on 9. I'm so sorry, guys, ignore me.
So
Strike
since
that.
we need to cross out prohibits conversion in the commercial B1 district.
In which district?
B1. The commercial district,
Okay.
so we just need to scratch that out on
Mhm.
the final red copy. Make sure to put that here. So in your red copy. First bullet. Says allows conversions by right in higher density in village district, possibly B1. It is B1, so. That will need to be changed to read R2, R1, NR, BR1, and B1. The third bullet item, prohibits conversion, needs to be scratched.
So the whole third bullet point goes
The
to,
whole third bullet goes, yes.
I'm so sorry. I'm clearly very lost this evening.
I can give you my answer.
Are,
Or-
Under item 6, aligns with Hopkinton's zoning hierarchy.
items
you on the right document.
Aligns with Hopkins. zoning.
Point
Thank
A,
you.
not
Okay.
A1.
Knowing that we were in 6 was very helpful. Thank you. I'm there. Here.
So it's 8.1. Item number 6,
8.9, item number 6.
bullet number 1.
Yeah. Okay,
Add B1. By right.
Mhm.
And then delete bullet. The third bullet completely. And then there's a part 2 to this. Revisions will be necessary for the B1, BB1 Village Commercial District. Currently, multifamily developments, 12 units, is permitted by special exception, and mixed-use development is also allowed. While ordinance revisions are needed to fully align with the law, the town will comply with the HB 631 in the interim and process multifamily proposals accordingly. Additionally, mixed-use development, residential, commercial, is already permitted in the commercial district at Hart's Corner through the overlay district, which allows up to 24 units per building. So what I would suggest is before this gets officially submitted to the planning board, is that I have Karen review this for continuity and accuracy. And just to make sure that it also aligns with any of the planning board is currently working. That makes sense to everyone?
Should we need to change the last page of this one to B1?
Yep, getting there. So then there was a question on the septic and well limitations. Catherine, you had asked if a duplex would require an upgraded septic system. And the town requires a current septic design. So similar to the ADU. So, the town requires improved septic design, and new septic system installation is only required if NHDES determines that the existing system is not previously approved or is inadequate to support proposed use. So if they don't have a septic system on file, they will need to provide. And what that answers that question, so it's very simple. It would be paid to do. Alright, then. Page 4. B1 commercial, Melissa, it says not permitted. That needs to be stricken and should read by right. With the likely outcome. To be determined. That's something I would have to discuss with you.
So would you take out the no residential conversion, pull those words out, and then it's just start with by right and then the rest.
Correct.
Okay.
So for the overall impact, again, that's gonna fall under that to be determined until I have that conversation. So that's not finalized. And I will give it to everyone when I've got more answers. Are there any other questions or comments? For A9? Okay, I'll take that as a no. And move on to A10. This is conversion of an existing single-family detached dwelling to a multifamily dwelling with a maximum of 4 units per building.
Yeah, it's just had almost no changes to start with, so that's a good thing.
Pardon?
This had no, almost no changes to start with. so-
Did not. That was nice. There was, let's see one over here. The conversion of a single family to a duplex would be allowed by special exception, so I did verify that. There are no changes to the notes for A9. But that was just a verification that was requested. Which was allowed by special exception. Alright, so on section 10. I didn't have any additional notes there that needed clarification. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, or changes? Don't let me down.
I'm still trying to process this. Something you just read, which I know I've heard before, was that in the, what's the new neighborhood, NR,
Mhm.
that there can be up to a 12-unit apartment building built in that zone, in that district, is that true?
Karen's comment.
Pardon?
She read Karen's comment.
Mhm.
So hold on to-
And I know I heard from at least one member of the public who had been concerned about Kingsbury Park and whether a 12-unit could be built there.
So I don't believe I mentioned anything about the old district. It was, excuse me, we discussed the B1, M1, and the M1. And that was it.
Well, I guess what I'm questioning, because I don't know if I'm correct about this, but I thought that you could build up to a 12-unit in the NR zone.
There's a ratio, I believe, that I don't have in this.
Well, I'm just wondering how, when we look at the district by district impact where it says NR zone special exception to convert to a 4-unit. How that plays into if there's an existing right to build a 12-unit. Would they need a special exception? I'm just wondering if there's any interaction between those two things.
What page do you want this?
Page 3, the impact summary, where it says the NR zone would be by special exception. And I'm just wondering if someone is allowed to build something even bigger than a 4-unit now. This would seem a little contradictory. I mean, it's not being built from the ground up, it's a conversion, but I'm just wondering if that's something we should be considering.
I will add that to my discussion points, okay, we get that clarified. So your question is if it's allowed up to 12 units. It's this huge.
Did you know this? Correct, if the NR zone allows. I'm pretty sure that's the case, because I remember there's also some public backlash about Park Avenue and some of those
So there was
lots.
a lot of misinformation out there. Which is why I don't want to hold it.
But I think that's where some of the backlash came from, the 12-unit. As I said, I could be wrong, I haven't looked it up recently, but. I think that may be the case, and I'm just wondering what the interaction will be between these two. If that exists, and then we request this, which is a little bit of a higher bar for conversion to a full.
And I will ask her if, that is new construction, that's tear down, or if conversions would qualify. So, yes, it allows for up to 12 residential dwelling units, similar to the R100 density extension. So, that are summary from the meeting. I'm going to see here. On. Post re-injury and I'm reviewing roads. Yeah, I'm going to take the easy way out and say if I'm not commenting on it until Gary. I'd rather do that than say something wrong. So I will put that in my list as well. All right, great point. Anything else? On section 18. And I just got an email from Amanda, she will not be able to make it. Got out of work very late. And. Nothing else on weekend, we could have a historic short meeting. And
Why would you jinx it, Trish?
I'm just saying.
Yeah, then Nick was expected every time we showed.
Yeah.
And we could really be setting up.
So set the.
Right now.
First meeting.
Nick, this is the way it always happens, but. Yes, how long are the meetings? I said too long. Okay. All right, so rather than. Propose future conversations about what comes next with our time. I will leave that up to the next committee chair to direct that discussion. Which brings me to my next point. Item 4, housing committee appointments. So, as you all know, this is my last meeting
As chair.
as chair. Almost got that in. And I have received interest in somebody else being chair, but I would also like to open the floor to discussions for anyone else that may be interested in chair.
I am neither interested nor do I think I am allowed. Interestingly, I don't think select board members are allowed to be chairs on the committees for which they sit.
That's fair. Yes.
What, say it again?
Select board members aren't allowed to be chairs on the committees for which they sit as an assigned select board member. It's a power thing, apparently. We're not allowed to like control
It
everything,
wasn't for punishment.
right?
was it?
Okay. Are there any nominations
I
for
nominate Jack,
Jack?
Mr.
Mr.
Rubin.
Rubin? Is there a second? Do we need a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Alrighty.
I know it's neither here nor there, but has he expressed interest or are we voting him in without his knowledge while he's not here? Like what is the play right now?
No.
And like, don't get me wrong, you snooze, you lose, but I do want to make sure that we're honoring like.
I am not interested, since I'm on the planning board, I prefer to continue to do what I do. I don't know if you're interested, I don't know if that man is interested. But I assume no one's reached out to you that,
No one else has reached out.
that
So
safe to assume.
Did Jack express interest?
Jack expressed an interest and I asked
Ain't no
him,
arm twisting.
I know, And I asked him if he would send me a note officially so that it was not a nomination in his absence. He said, I would like to be considered for the position, and if voted in as chair, I would be honored to serve in that capacity. Is there any further discussion? All right, shall we take a vote? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed? Abstentions?
Madness.
Okay. All right then.
I have, additional add to the agenda.
We think you do.
I am,
Okay, board and committee updates, so.
oh, okay, good.
I guess we could slip that in because I neglected to add a new business section, which typically comes before the board and committees updates, so. Mr. Feller, what would you love to share with us?
I would like to have a discussion, regarding, what our mission is. And maybe not necessarily what our mission is, but more, whether we should be going to the selectmen and having them, select board, I'm sorry, and having them approve what we're working on. Because if you just look at our mission is to develop recommendations regarding the housing availability and future housing needs. We skipped down to the membership and started duties. I just put in here what I thought was where we were with all these things, and most of these things I feel are already done. And it says here that we're supposed to do certain things. The first one being create an annual plan to be approved by the select board. Now, let me explain why I think this is important. If we're putting forward a plan to make some changes to the zoning and whatever. And we go forward, we do all our work, we submit it to the planning board, the planning board says, great stuff, thank you. We got other priorities. We're not considering these until 2037. Okay, obviously I'm exaggerating here, okay? But if we want to feel like we have a purpose, I would think at that point, we would go to the select board and say, we want to make you aware of what's going on. This is what we thought our charge was. This is what we're being told. Do you want to intercede? And I think it's important up front to know where the select board stands on that before we go through the whole process and then find out we're in that position later. And I am not proposing that one way or the other, and I'm not saying that we're going to have issues. I'm just saying is being proactive about it is better than being surprised 6 months, 9 months, a year from now. And I just want everybody else's thoughts on that whole.
I do want to just comment on the limitation of different powers of different groups. If the planning board deprioritized the recommendations put forward by the housing committee, I am not sure there is like a screw the select board could turn to get it prioritized per se. Because the planning board is separately, it's like an independent entity, so to speak.
Which gives them the authority to make changes.
I'd want to check, and we can make changes to that, but I think I'm mindful of the way this particular select board works in that it tends to let each committee work its way through the thing it is working on. I'm also mindful that we are so close to potentially getting these 3 items submitted. And so I would recommend that we finish this particular project that has been years in the making, but then pull up for air and get into the process of having that annual plan. Without having Jack here as the new chair, to then say at our next meeting, let's do our annual plan. And then the meeting after that, we can get back to the table of uses. And then we've missed the deadline by the planning board to even be up for it. Not that you're saying that, I'm just
No.
mindful of like,
Okay.
the turn of the cog, how it can accidentally, and then you find yourself that you're like, okay, well, maybe for 2028, and it was ourselves tripping over the fine print.
Determine what our plan is. Okay, and we're doing it and executing it,
Awesome.
okay? But we haven't got any feedback from the select board, which we're supposed to get according to our mission, or according to our duties. Okay.
Approval, but not feedback. I'm mindful that those are two very different
We
things.
haven't got approval.
We do have approval.
Do you have approval from the select board on our annual plan?
So Alyssa is our liaison for the
Yes,
select.
That's not
And
approval.
she
of the
is.
The
she
thing is,
reporting each
we
month.
brought all of this, not these three specific items, right? These three specific items have been baking, they've been cooking, they've been changing. So I have not brought these three items to the board and said, sign up on these because they change every month as they've been evolving. And so if you want to add in the process of sending these three up, but the work that we are doing has the approval, because 3 months ago, I was asked to bring what we are working on back to them and get their approval to make sure, because there was some concern around the table that we weren't spending our time in the right place. And they reaffirmed the work that we were doing. That is not the same as having an annual plan and saying, this is the work we're doing, have you approved it? And I will note that the projects that the board had been focused on up to this point had been kind of a multi-year singular focus. And in my mind, submitting these three items is the conclusion of that chapter, so to speak. We're still gonna pull on that work, we're still gonna reference that work, but the completion of that is no longer the work. And so what is the annual plan? What is the work? I agree with you.
Are these? I thought there was I know I saw that one time, there was a document that said this is what the select board, I think at the time of creating the housing committee, said that they were supposed to be, they were tasked with doing. Right?
This is it,
And
yeah.
This is all of it.
This is it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I thought. We then, the housing committee, right? They'd undertaken the Barrett report, the process. And we were working through that report in terms of what could we use in that report that would help us in our duties on the housing committee. And we had taken some of that away, right? We had 2 recommendations to come forward. We had this one just the last time. I'm not suggesting that the Barrett report was substituted for our annual plan, but it was certainly our key focus. At least for the next year or 2, maybe even 3, right?
So if I can add to that, excuse me, the first couple of years were fulfilling the obligations of the grant that paid for the 2 different studies. And so the select board authorized that as our annual plan, and was to execute that. This is the first year that we've done something as a result of, but outside of the grant. So I do understand what you're saying, but Alyssa did bring initially information to the select board. I received information that, keep doing what you're doing and send it off to the planning board for their review as well.
I will say, when I'm personally very excited about having jumped into the committee in the middle of or not the middle, the last third of the full project of that, is the fact that the committee was created, as I understand it, for a larger, more holistic look at housing in an evolving manner, not in a singular manner. And the grant created a hyper focus in a specific area, and that there is opportunity now that the grant has been completed. And once we get this submitted for the 2027 session, to pull up and say, where do we see the most value of this list? Because I know you wrote done, and I think it was done for a moment in time, but data every 3 or 4 years has to be refreshed. And so I think there's space for us to think about different and ongoing community engagement and pulse surveys, and how do we keep a lens on how housing is developing so that as a housing committee, we can know what is the best use of our time. Is it making changes to zoning? Is it something different? I don't know, but I'm with you in that at the conclusion of this, I think that there's a lot of question marks
Yeah.
about what comes next.
I think if we get to 27 and we put those priorities forward. So this is what's next? What has happened since in 26 or what, what changed? How did the ADU thing actually turn out, right? Did we
Mhm.
get any traction in that? Do we get a couple? Do we get a lot, right?
How do we evaluate the changes that have been made and the impact they
Right.
have made while keeping an eye on the Barrett report to see if there's things that they had done that we want to pull out because now it feels is the right time or it's going to make impact or it's going to help us get there. So like not forgetting it, not ditching it, but using it as a resource to see what's
But
next.
sometimes we can't refresh, doesn't mean we can't refresh a master plan. That's the.
Well, that's up to the
Right.
select board,
Right.
if they want to revise the issues.
Right.
Melissa?
And I was just gonna say that we presented the Barrett report to the planning board as a guideline for years to come, work that was going to be done. That we would revisit it each year and find items that we were gonna be working on. And that the report wasn't something that we have to adopt and execute and implement, but it's more of a guideline for the work that we can be, should be, and will be doing.
The planning board recognized there were a lot of recommendations in the Barrett report, and we knew we couldn't get 15 changes done in a year, right? So the planning board said, and I think when we all agreed that we could do this in steps and do it logically, and that's, I think, the process that we chose. And that's why we have some this year, we had some for next year, right?
So I think that's more of the annual plan discussion. Without it being a formal discussion.
I am really curious. When you printed this out and you brought it in, is it that you were hoping may not be the right word, but wondering about a new direction or about just affirmation on what we're doing?
Sure that everybody believes that we're all going in the same direction, that's all.
Well, I think a good next step is once Trisha has finished with the latest edit of red lines, right? Because each meeting, there's been fewer and fewer edits that we've submitted, is to take those 3 and send it with a short paragraph just to be included in the town admin updates at the next available select board meeting to say, hey, quick update from the housing committee. We have finished our red lines. If by that point we've already had another meeting and we have agreed that we're sending them on, we include that. If we haven't, just saying at the next meeting, we're discussing what we are sending on to the planning board and just slipping those in there. Because I don't think it needs to be a big thing at a select board meeting, but to put the content in their folder for them to read and just know this is the document that either is going to be moving forward or not, because we've done all of the edits.
Alyssa, I would echo, I was going to also say that some of these things that say done, David, dated back to 2023, right, when we started this. So the assessment of what housing looks like now is different than what it looked like then. We have a lot of development starting to go in with it, so I personally.
Lost our student, I think he was probably here, he was probably here observing.
It's the civics class.
Um,
He did his time. He's out. He's enough for his content.
So number 3, for example, to track new housing starts including type and number of units. You're correct that that's being done by the planning board and what is the assessment department. But I think if we're making decisions on how to help with housing, we should know how those numbers are changing.
Yeah.
And how many things have been built since 2023? How many ADUs, what's been permitted, what's been built? And I know right now, you've had a lot of conservation subdivisions.
Yes.
There's Barrington Corner, Sugar Hill. Isn't there something out on Ranch Londonderry that looks like it's going in? And Stonefield Road,
Yes.
so there's a lot that's being done, and I think
I do have that
Incumbent
information.
on us
So-
to,
I guess this summer, I didn't want to start a big thing here, and no, I'm not looking to change direction at all. I just, I think the important thing is that we, at some point, relook at what's here.
You know,
And if it needs to be changed, needs to be updated, let's make some suggested changes to the select board. And say, here's what we think, are you in agreement with this? That's all.
I
Well, at the end
also,
of the day, if I may, quickly, it doesn't refer to the planning board anywhere in our mission. It references the select board.
Mhm.
And I think perhaps the select board should be weighing in a little bit more. And they were initially meant to be that link between
But that
the
is,
planning board and,
that's very
the
different
housing.
in the way, and what Alyssa said a few minutes ago.
I understand, but
Yeah,
I'm just
I
looking
agree.
back and saying. And initially, when I went to the select board, we would give updates. You know, it was like, yeah, that's great, thank you very much, coordinate with the planning board. But it doesn't say that, so I think maybe perhaps.
Most towns, the housing committee is an advisory committee to the planning board, and I understand, because I've been told that that was set up differently here. And I don't know. In my experience sitting on the board for the past couple months, I don't think I think it needs to be an advisory, like a separate advisory committee with a direct dotted line to the planning board, speaking for myself, because bringing it to select board, looking at the variety of topics they're hitting on a given night, and that many of them are like, this is going to happen in the next like month. What are you going to do about it? And then you bring in this, and it's like, here's this thing we're working on that may have an impact in 3 years. And that might be why they're looking at you going, great. I need you to go talk to the planning board because we have no brain space for this. I'm speaking just from my own experience and watching everyone else's faces around the table.
I mean, a subcommittee of the planning board.
Not a subcommittee.
Well, whatever, an advisory committee sort of suggests a more narrow approach to what this committee is. And when David, you were asked, do you see us going in a different direction? I think it's time that we do go in a different direction, that we put forth some zoning changes, but never in this document did it say focus only on zoning changes. And I think we could serve educational purposes, for example. I think it was in the planning board, you can correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere. Maybe it was this committee, we heard that, there was an AARP grant that will provide,
There is an AARP grant that, there we go.
We
Oh,
apply, no,
Okay, but that's the sort of thing, so what it is, was it this committee that it was discussed?
yes,
Okay, so everybody knows what it is, okay.
yes.
That's the kind of thing that we could be responsible for getting that information out to the public. There are things with section 8 in here. I know you wrote done, but I don't think we put on anything with it. I'm not sure how much we could do with it, but. We have the situation at the Meadows, and I'm just wondering whether this committee could broaden its scope beyond just zoning. And since we have done some things with zoning, and right now the state has produced. And there are state laws that have also mandated some things. So there have been a fair number of changes to zoning, and I think that it's time that we sort of sit back and see what happens with that. The state has added about 25,500 new units, which is very close to being on track with what they said they needed. It's a little bit shy of the percentage that we would have to have by now. But when you look at what's going on throughout the state, not just in our town, we're getting close to being on track. And as I said, seen a lot more development going on in town already, so I don't know that we need to keep chasing zoning changes, which are also kind of difficult to get the public to buy into sometimes. But what else can we do? How can we?
So many things. I think a lot of it is ref-
Doing, I mean, these things, yeah, we've spent the last 3 years, I guess, 2.5, 3 years, however long it's been. With zoning, I'd like to focus on some of the other things and brainstorm what we might be able to do for people that are in town that are struggling.
it does seem like the grant in and of itself took up a lot of air, right? But now it's complete. And may I propose that at the next meeting, Jack as chair leads us through what are we doing with these 3 versions in the first half. Hopefully we can button it up quickly. And then in the second half, talk a little bit about what would keep us coming to committee meetings and energized to be involved, whether we have to because of our positions or because we want to, and we're volunteering our time. Because there's a fair amount of data that is already out there. And I'm relatively sure if we just let folks know, like Beverly or Karen, that, hey, each meeting, we're hoping to have these updated numbers to stick on our agenda, just to keep in front of us. That type of stuff is easy to keep there. And then we could discuss things like, well, what is the length of time before we can measure impact on certain things that have happened? How do we measure impact? And how do we continue to collect community feedback on their housing experience? That would then inform education versus zoning versus whatever we need to do to help. And I will, not at the next meeting, but maybe meeting after that, to talk a bit more about putting some liaisoning with the planning board into this scope. Because even if it's not on zoning, even if it's just providing like, hey, we looked into the impact of this, which is a question I had for you, is the planning board, I imagine, is always full steam ahead. You have a lot to do. Is there ever a space to stop and reflect on the zoning changes that have been made?
Just recently we had the one development that had to do with conservation. It's when something, we stop and go, wow, that's not what we really intended. With the conservation, if you put half of it in conservation, the other half, until you get small lots, and the conservation lands in the back, and the people on the other side of the street now have 8 homes in front of them.
Yeah, Jeff
That's not-
shared that with the
that's
select
not
board, yeah.
exactly what I think was done, or what we didn't think would happen,
The letter of the law, not the spirit of the
Right.
law, yeah.
and there was nothing the planning board could do to assist anybody who was on the other side of the table, that's all. So, and I think to your point, so yes, we're always looking at what comes to the planning board, but, some stuff we discover that something happened that, made us rethink what we had done previously.
Well, there can often be unintended consequences.
Have you noticed a change in the volume of what you discuss at the planning boards now? We have a hard stop at 7.
In terms of like,
The meeting that comes and starts at 7, the conservation committee, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, I,
so I know I showed up at the last planning board to give the update for the committee. And the meeting was called and it was over.
Yeah.
And so I know, have you seen that there are things that you normally would discuss, maybe aren't getting discussed?
oh, I mean, I think we're getting through what is important. Whenever someone brings a proposal to the planning board, that's something that gets a priority.
Right, I mean, the things that you're working on, similar to what we're doing.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is not necessarily to.
Yeah, we have one of those master plans too, that probably is about 30 years old. Things that are on there.
Right.
I know when Clark was, one of Clark's early comments was, oh, I remember putting this on back in the day.
And I'm
Yeah,
not
it's still there.
Can I just make a point of order?
44. It's been called.
Yeah,
So the reason I ask is because if there's not a lot of time, is it something that we as a committee should schedule with the planning board every so often, maybe every 3 months, to have a sit down outside of our regular meetings so that we can discuss directions, ideas, collaboration. Because that's kind of what I'm hearing from a couple of different members, I believe.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yes,
Doesn't the planning board generally meet on the second Tuesday of the month?
Yeah, we're meeting 14th.
That's Tuesday. Because the Conservation Commission meets on the third. Occasionally, the planning
It's
board
not
got pushed back.
conservation, there was another committee that came in after.
Well, we do come in back to back occasionally, but I don't think that's the regular.
Oh,
I think it
okay,
happened maybe because of voting on it
Gotcha.
on the Tuesday.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think that's a regular.
Yeah.
but it's
We,
the flavor,
only-
is it the flavor of the committee to have more frequent updates in collaboration with the planning board?
No.
Okay,
I would say it depends on what the future conversation is. I wouldn't necessarily tie us up with that.
okay,
I think once we get through these 3 red line items and pull up for air, it might be that we request to come in to give some updates on impact we're seeing or chat about changes that might need to happen, but I think the work may take us in many different places.
excellent, okay, I just wanna know what I am updating Jack as far as what you can expect.
I'm not.
So
I think the planning board, I mean, our meetings aren't short.
I know. Okay, was there anything else on this list?
But that's a problem.
Nothing personal, I'm just saying, I'm not sure.
That's a problem.
There's a lot of discussion.
That's a problem. Because long, in my experience, long meetings are a result of people not cutting off conversation when it should be cut off.
Isn't some
Yeah.
of it a function of the fact that people come in with conceptuals and charts and maps and
And that's
attorneys
schedule-
or reps?
It's a scheduling issue.
Okay, so
Yes.
in order to keep
But
us
anyway.
on track. I wanted to refer back to your other list. Was there anything else on here you wanted to discuss as a committee?
No.
All right.
Thank you for bringing it
I
up.
just
Thank
want
you
to
very
mention,
much.
to your point, Tricia, that it references the select board and not the planning board, but it does reference the master plan, which
It
is
does, I
function
know.
of the planning board, so.
Yeah, interesting how it was
Just
written.
as to contribute to the
Right.
update, so. All right then, so that can be a future discussion for our new chair.
Let Jack know he has an energized committee. Super pumped.
Jack knows what he's getting. And I do have the report for permits I'm sure that were issued. And I thought that went out to the entire committee and if not get it, then. if
I
you
don't
like
remember
it,
again.
I will send it.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, then, board and committee updates, please.
The select board has only met once since last we all saw each other, and or maybe it was twice, but it's all been focused on town meetings. As anyone who went to town meeting experienced, we made an amendment on our own warrant article on the floor, and that took a lot of pre-work. So I have no other updates other than what you experienced at town meeting, and our next meeting is Monday.
Planning board, I did not make that meeting because I traveled, but they were focused on the 3 things that we were recommending for this time. And I think the planning, wasn't it like we had to, the committee had to like in March or something, sort of move those forward.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The
The
3 things
big
we
half until the end
recommended
of March.
for 2027, wasn't that our cutoff for the committee here? Or that was what their planning board was.
It was an internal goal that we had set
Okay.
for ourselves.
I think that's the only thing I would probably say to planning board, is just sort of expecting that, I guess, not a demand, but you're just saying they're gonna add, that is gonna come up probably next week, is when would we as a committee have the 27 recommendations to the planning board,
Okay,
that's all.
all right then.
Yeah.
So we should have all the red lines done next month. I mean, I will have them done this week, but as a committee, does everybody feel we should meet and review the red lines once again after speaking to Karen before we compile it?
I don't feel like that.
Because if not, I will discuss with Karen and I will get ready for for the planning board. But I would also like to communicate with Jack, as he is going to be the new chair, so that we are both copacetic with all the information.
Are we voting on these once they're done?
I think that's what Trisha was asking, is do we need to get back together to vote and move them forward? And or are we, has the workshopping been the work and are we moving it forward? I have a feeling, I don't want to speak for Amanda, but if I were to try to channel the spirit of Amanda, she would request to be able to vote on them. But I could be incorrect.
Well, I think we should.
So do we,
I make a motion to approve them as amended tonight.
Okay,
Is there a second?
a second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed?
No,
yeah, no, we're not gonna discuss it with Amanda? I thought that was kind of.
It's not that. It's
So
not
we
about
can
discussing
include
it with
this.
her. It's about people being able to vote on moving it forward or not, and she would be put down. So for instance, when you go to the town meeting and it'll say like select board 4-0, even though you know there's 5 of us, it means that one person wasn't at that meeting when we voted to recommend them. And it is what it is, because you're not always gonna have every single person.
Well, no, it's just like, what's the timeline, and I'm not pushing anything, what's the timeline between this meeting, and then you talking to Karen, having something that we could, as a committee, review a week, 2 weeks, end of April, I mean, I'm just.
Yeah, do this outside of committee, this has to be committee work. We can't have discussions outside of.
Yeah, but could this committee meet again whenever that is done, or would we have to wait till the next? May meeting?
Well, we
That's
do
what-
have a vote on the floor. And can I just finish point of order, the vote count? Yay, nay, or abstention?
I'm gonna abstain, because I didn't have any input on the
That's
documents.
fair, okay. So 3 yea, 2 nay, 1 abstention. Okay,
So I'm confused as hell. Last meeting, we spent damn near 3 hours. Frustratingly going over every word in this document until everybody was comfortable with the words. We went over them again today to say all the agreement, all the changes have been made according to what we painfully talked about last meeting, and then we vote no against it? I don't get it,
I can explain why I voted no.
okay?
I wouldn't listen. Okay, in my view, what we did at the last meeting was to wordsmith everything to make sure that it was easy enough to read, accurate, and said what we were trying to do.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean I agree with it all. For example, on one of them, we don't have to go into the details, it allows for, I think it was duplexes in R3 and R4 by special exception, I don't agree with that. I might vote yes on 1 or 2 of these and no on another. So I'm not ready tonight with 2 members not here. And if we don't want to discuss them further, that's fine. I would like to see a couple of things amended before I can support it. But if we were voting right now on all of them as one entity, that's why I'm voting no.
okay,
From my perspective, I know when. We meet with Karen and Karen has input, there always seems to be something that just needs one quick review. So I'm not saying we spend 3 hours going over everything, but just to sort of. Okay, was anything missing that that Tricia wanted in the bill with Karen, and so. And if everybody votes that, hey, we're okay with that. Then whatever the majority is, we'll take what it is.
I wouldn't submit it without you guys having fun.
Right.
And I always
Right.
request
No, I-
comments,
I-
and you're very good about reaching out to me and sharing your comments and concerns.
So is that what we do? We just get the final copy from Tricia, and then she just sends it to all of us, and if we get any comments, then that's a quasi vote to send it forward.
That,
Is that the process?
Well, that's not a vote, that.
as I said, from a legal perspective, that would count.
we have a vote
I'm asking.
that is on the table, voted, completed, and closed. So I will get the information from Karen. I will update the documents. I will take tonight's information and switch that into accepted, and anything new will then be redlined for you to be able to easily see in the email.
And I just want to remind everyone that the same way that we see that budget committee recommended things 8-2 or 9-1, right? Or select board recommended things in those numbers, it's okay to send over a recommendation and not have it be everything 0. That is okay. That is the nature of committees, and it leads to good conversation and a more robust. So it's also okay to let something finally go and move on to the next project.
And honestly, everyone has an opportunity at the planning board when it's discussed to
Mhm.
share your personal opinions about something you disagree with.
That's true.
100%.
Yep.
Completely understand where Dave is coming from. If we've spent months working on this and then we're gonna vote no, what have we been doing?
Well,
But I do agree with everything Catherine
I
said. It's just like on budget committee, you can spend months working on the budget and you have been saying like, I don't agree the whole time. And so when it comes down to the final vote, you can vote no, and that's okay.
but the vote to approve these to me were that these are accurate, as you said, and they reflect everything that we wanted to put in this document. That's not an approval saying that we're putting these to the planning board to say, we want to do all these, because the next step was to put a narrative with those to go to the planning board.
Wait, so what
I
did,
absolutely
things.
think that if we send it forward with a unanimous sort of vote that we're sending this forward, that to me clearly says that we
We
support it.
didn't approve to send it to the planning. We approved that they don't need any more wordsmith. Unless Karen comes back to Tricia and says, you know, this whole section's wrong, then Tricia or Jack, at the time, would bring it back to us and say, okay, we have a problem. You know,
Maybe
Okay.
I'm not understanding what your motion was to vote on. What was the wording of what we were actually voting on?
the wording, more I think of it, was not very well. Okay, it was just to approve what was on these documents. It wasn't to approve sending them or doing anything further with them. It was just to approve them. I was saying, because the question was, do we need to bring these back and talk about them again? After she makes the 3 changes that we made tonight. And my approach to that was, no, I don't want to talk about them yet. I've already talked about them for more hours than I want to talk about them. Because if they say what we want to say,
Well,
and I understand what you're saying.
I don't know that they say what everyone wants them to say. They're saying it in a correct fashion. But like I said, I don't necessarily support each and every one of
It's
it.
different.
I don't want the vote.
But that's different. That's different,
I don't see the distinction quite so much.
Votes.
I think it implies supporting it when you vote to accept it.
I think where we're at is I'm gonna go back and watch the recording after this to see what the exact motion put forward was. I will include it in the minutes and we will take it from there.
Thank you.
Yay, recording.
PA recording.
And y'all, I have a policy of not watching recordings I am in, so I'm gonna break it for this group.
Right, is there anything you would love to bring from the village precinct?
Not really, I would say we meet a third Thursday every month. Right here at 7:30. We never get anybody that comes to our meeting. So, yes, you're welcome. Inside the village precinct or outside. So, we'd like to hear from anybody that wants to show up. And we do talk about zoning. But we haven't undertaken revisions to our zoning. That's an undertaking. And we really haven't had the will or the, you know, I think it's something that needs to be looked at outside of the committee, like have a third party look at it and do it. Possible. But it's definitely something that considered. It's so important. I would think.
So we considered eliminating it?
That has definitely been considered in the past. Can't say it, our board, since I've been on the board, we've never actually voted on that. But I know that's a pretty controversial topic for some people in the village precinct. And they don't want to do it, but I don't know how our current board hasn't been raised.
And who would vote on it? Everyone who lives in the precinct?
Yes, I think that would, yeah, that would basically.
Majority vote.
So there would be a public announcement. So everyone in precinct knows, want to vote to,
Let's see if we'll come to that one.
they definitely.
Be pretty well attended. But, happy to hear, you know, maybe not tonight, but anytime, people's thoughts, concerns, feelings about the precinct. I was looking at the Barra report while you guys were talking about it, so I didn't know what it was. And I noticed there is a section at the end of it about the village precinct. But it's basically like update your zoning ordinance, so yeah, I understand that. It needs to be updated.
So, just so you know why we requested the select board to create a new position and extend the invitation was because there has been discussion about the fact that the village precinct gets to vote on zoning that happens elsewhere in town, but the town doesn't get to have any input on the precinct.
I see. So like residents of the village precinct can vote on town zoning, vote on health competition, well, would be taxable.
But the zoning changes don't affect.
We pay taxes to both places.
That's where there's some resentment from people who say, well, if you live in the Hopkinton Village Precinct, you can vote in this zoning amendment that we don't want, but it won't affect you. So
But I don't think that's
Yes,
why we
that's-
wanted a member on the committee. I think we wanted a member on the committee to share what we are learning and how we're moving forward so that there's a direct line in the event that y'all decide that these types of changes to your zoning would be helpful. And so rather than going off and doing it all on your own, you could piggyback on the, piggyback on the work we're already doing and take what would work for you and apply it, but also bring the conversation, bring you in. So we're not talking about you. We can talk to you.
Fair, but in all honesty, it was to have full representation
Just some transparency.
and bridge that perceived gap.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't even say perceived, because there is a
it's a
gap.
reality.
It's a reality. There is a gap between the Hopkinton Village Precinct and the rest of the community. And so if we have voices from every entity at the table, I think it goes a long way to helping to bridge that gap and eliminate the animosity that's up there. So, and then help with any changes that.
I guess I like to start all new partnerships from an asset-based perspective and not use the word resentment in my initial pitch on the first meeting. But that's why I'm like, let's start with the good stuff and we'll get to the resentment later.
I just want people knowing.
I'm gonna say, like, animosity, resentment, like, we have meetings every month, nobody comes, nobody says anything to us, so. I mean, these are public meetings.
Yeah.
I haven't seen,
I know, that's-
I haven't heard of whisper.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
So,
Well, it's not resentment against people or,
No, no, no.
and
It's the
those
process.
are, I guess they're harsh words, but. Yeah, the process is that there are people who live in the other parts of Hopkinton who have said. Well, why do people in the Hopkinton Village precinct get to vote to give us apartments? And they won't be impacted by it, and I think that's a fair question, and you can see how some people would. I don't like that, so.
And to be honest,
Just has
it's
to be-
fair, I have fielded more conversations and emails and. Facebook messages and everything than I can count now, and so, you know, I think this is moving in the right direction where everybody is at the table, so. So welcome.
Are you coming back? Please come back.
So, but this is nothing new because I've gone to the village precinct and had these discussions with the precinct. So, I mean, they know what's going on as well, so. Which is why I'm very grateful.
for sure, we'll say, we have a short, our zoning ordinance is pretty short.
And I already some recommendations that, you know, that wanted to be phased in, we can start discussing that and work them into those sections, so. All right, then, if there is nothing else, because there are no public comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can we thank you for your chairman?
Yes.
For the past year.
Oh.
However,
Thank you, I appreciate
How many
that,
years?
3 years.
3 years.
thank you.
Thank you,
That's a lot of work.
it's time for new blood. You all will be grateful for it. So, thank you, this has been, it's been great, I really love this committee, so. Yeah, that's still here. Get rid of me, yeah. All right, then, so a motion to adjourn
I move that we adjourn.
and a second. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.